Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt186 and I'm taking a look at AOC's 27G2 monitor. It's a 27-inch 1080p 144Hz IPS panel with 100mm VESA compatibility on the back. It does come with a completely toolless base with a swivel, tilt, and vertical spring action. The monitor clips in the back and can be released pretty easily with a plastic lever for moving it later to a separate base or a mount. The base is somewhat underwhelming though. Its lightweight design makes it kind of a two-hand process for just about anything you want to do. Put one hand on the base and turn it, one hand on the base and lift it. Otherwise the base is so light it doesn't counter the monitor well, and it may fall over if you try to do it one-handed. The I/O on the monitor is 2 HDMIs, 1 display port, 1 VGA, 1 3.5mm for audio, and your DC plug-in. I suppose that counts as an input-output as well, your power. This model does not have a USB hub though. We've seen USB hubs on AOC monitors in the past for a pretty low price, and that's always been nice, but on this particular monitor we don't have the USB pass-through hub. The panel itself is relatively dim in comparison with other panels, with a brightness max for around 220 to 230 nits, which is not bad, but not amazingly well off either. Overall, it's not a bad experience, even in the brightly lit room such as mine. Using the following settings, these are how I achieve the best, in my opinion, color and representation of everything I'm seeing. So if you want to follow this, a lot of things are already set out of default, so I'm just going to tell you the ones that I changed. But changing these gave me the best experience with this monitor. I did set my brightness to 10. I do not use DCR. I do not use the HDR effect because it's already a dim panel. It's really just going to create the annoyance of light and not the brightness of light. There are 3 gamma profiles. I have it set to gamma 1 with gamma color 11. I find this to be the most enjoyable for just about every game and every viewing experience that I have on the monitor. I've noticed that some of the game modes do a little bit poorly. That might be an understatement. Red nameplates, for instance, in first player setting, if I set it to first player, my red nameplates begin to look pink. It looks over contrasty and a little bit overscanned every time I go somewhere, move, and look around in the game, to the point where I get frustrated. Moving on from that though, I did do a black crush test, and it's on the edge of underwhelming in my book. The last box that I can see well is box 7 on this monitor, and I can barely see box 6. This is kind of that line of, well, that's not great, but it's alright. Running a UFO test real quick, ghosting is so-so. It's within tolerable ranges for me. It's not something that particularly bothers me, but it's okay. It's sort of in that tolerable range. It's sort of the box 7, if you will. Of the black crush test, but for ghosting. It's not bad, it could be better. In my nighttime test, I detected no majorly offensive BLB issues. I had a little bit in the top left corner that I could see with some definite light bleed, but for the most part I detected no majorly bad issues. Now, there's a little thing called the panel lottery that's out there, so depending on where parts are sourced for the same panel, you may get inconsistent results across the board, and that may also depend on the region where they buy the parts to ship these parts to because of cost effectiveness. So you may get one that has worse BLB, but in the case of the one I'm looking at, in all fairness, there's not bad BLB here. It's totally within tolerable ranges. Now, in some of my angled recordings, it appears to generate a pretty bad screen door effect. I want you to know that was poor camera placement in order to try to show you something. So your perceptual view will probably be more something like this in the shot that I'm showing you now. This is more accurate to what you're going to see, but the angled camera shot up close kind of picks up some of that interscan, and that gives you a little bit of that look where it looks like it's a screen door effect more pronounced than it actually is. You don't see that in person though. I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying that for anybody. Now, that being said, if we do get up close because of low pixel density on this 1080p monitor on a 27-inch screen, we'll see a screen door effect when you look really close. You can see individual pixels in there. Something that's always kind of bothered me with marketing is how they market gray to gray, black to black. These are terms that in-house developers kind of use for their panel marketing. 1 millisecond gray to gray is not a thing for an IPS panel, especially since this isn't even a super speed IPS panel. It's just a normal IPS panel with a boasted 1 millisecond of gray to gray. The nature of IPS panels just really don't let that be a thing in the first place, and even on SS IPS panels you're looking at closer to 2 milliseconds, and that's like usually 2.8 milliseconds, and they call it 2 milliseconds. Realistically, researching panels and just having a little bit of knowledge of how IPS works, you're probably going to look at about 3 to 4 milliseconds if you're going to round up from 2 milliseconds to 3 milliseconds. That 3 to 4 milliseconds gray to gray range, and 5 plus milliseconds for black to black. And also keeping in mind that these aren't governed measurements that anybody holds a fire to anybody over, so they can pretty much say what they want with them, but to some degree you would hope that they're being realistic and representing it well to you. It's also a very small thing to have any concern with, but just in case you're wondering. A proud featured specific thing of this specific monitor is going to be the fact that it is G-Sync compatible. So if anybody's using GTX, RTX cards, this is the monitor that you'd probably want to go with. If you want something that specifically is G-Sync for your G-Sync capable card, this monitor does have G-Sync features. You go into the on-screen display and you can enable it, and bada bing, you're good to go. So if you're somebody running an AMD card, you may want to look more for the FreeSync stuff or the FreeSync premium options that are out there in monitors. That G-Sync is not going to serve you well if you're using an AMD card. A quick small annoyance about it too is that the menus and the buttons for the menus, they are difficult to get used to, but I consider this a small thing because pretty much once you've found your settings and you're done navigating that menu, you're probably not going to have to re-access that menu very much more in the future. So just a small thing. I've noticed over the years that the monitor companies that produce the analog stick that let you go left, right, back, forward, and depress to select something, those have been the most easy and just best experience to use. My UD88 uses one and I love it. These spread out little buttons that are difficult to depress may cause you a little bit of frustration with the monitor, but overall, like I said, once you've got things set, you probably don't have to revisit that very often. This monitor is for the casual and the casual breakout. It's suitable for me in my book, and any way you look at it, it's a pretty decent monitor. It doesn't have a lot of super flare extras. It kind of falls on that borderline of almost underwhelming, but not quite, but it's definitely something that's for that casual gamer that's looking to maybe take it up a step, move it up a little bit more. You want something that works with your 2060 or your 3060. This will be a good option for you. There were a few areas in which maybe I desired a little bit more from it, but overall, watching and playing games on it, it's a fairly decent monitor, and it's probably something I'd say, hey man, if you want to check this one out, it's actually been pretty good. I used it, I like it, and it's something I'd go with so you're not burning a hole in your wallet. Guys, I hope this was somewhat helpful and useful to you. You guys have a great day, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you in the next video that I do.